What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to episode number 384 of the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk podcast. It's time for the hot tags of the week, where we're going to be breaking down some of the current events, the rumors, the news, the gossip, and everything else that went down in the world of the professional wrestling scene over the past couple of days, other than the events that we previously talked about. Go back and check out TakeOver and WrestleMania and everything else on those editions. But now it's time for the hot tags. I'm your host, as always, Tony Mango, and joining me, as always, are the usual suspects here. We've got Robert DeFelice.
Hey, guys.
And Callum Wiggins.
Hello.
So, hot tag-wise, we are later than we normally do this during the week because it's WrestleMania, so needed a little bit of time to breathe. And actually, that's one of the good things that's happened about that is we have a lot of things to break down. Some of this is stuff that has happened before WrestleMania throughout like the Axxess side of things. We're going to talk about the Hall of Fame a little bit and, you know, other things that kind of happened beforehand. Some other things are just recently over the past 2 days or so. So all these topics that we're going to be breaking down, we invite you to drop your comments below and tell us what you think about them and chime in on your opinions on our opinions and anything else that you want to talk about. We're going to start things off with one of the things that had happened at WrestleMania Axxess, which was that they unveiled a new statue. And they've done in the past Ultimate Warrior and Ric Flair and Andre the Giant and Dusty Rhodes, and you know, they kind of just, every once in a while, it seems like pretty much like once a year, they make a new one. And this time around, it was Rowdy Roddy Piper. So, thoughts on the statue and thoughts on the idea of Piper being the one that they immortalized? What do you guys think?
The statue looks fine. Compared to how I've seen some statues in the past, which absolutely look nothing like the actual person they're meant to be representing. This one looks pretty good. I think the arms are a bit small. If I'm being hypercritical, but yeah, I like the fact that it's got the bagpipes and the kilt. It does just completely look like Roddy Piper. I think it's a good choice, especially around WrestleMania weekend, to have a statue dedicated to him because one of the original main eventers of WrestleMania. I think it's a good fit.
And I'm surprised that it's not Hogan, but also kind of glad it's not Hogan. You know?
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of people in the future that they should end up giving some kind of a statue to, and despite the controversy around it, Hogan is one of them. I don't believe that they have a Macho Man statue yet, so he's somebody to do down the line at some point. And I mean, the list can go on and on and on. I mean, eventually you're going to have an Undertaker one, eventually a Bret Hart one, and, you know, we can have a list of like 30 different names, and then we're starting to get into the Mount Rushmore again of who goes first, Austin or The Rock, and like, you know, that kind of a thing. But Piper was a big, big deal, and I think that it's a really good thing that they did that. So thumbs up on that. Another thing that happened a little bit before WrestleMania was Chelsea Green and Zack Ryder are now engaged. Not really too much to talk about with that, except for congrats to the happy couple. But you guys want to chime in on anything with that?
I really think that this man should watch prior episodes of Impact. This woman takes weddings very seriously, and he better know what he's getting into. But, you know, he seems happy, so congratulations to them.
Yeah. It's just congratulations to the both of them. I wonder if he was happier with that or winning the tag team titles at WrestleMania. I guess it's like a real flip of the coin for that one.
He's just like, this is a damn good week.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been in some pretty long relationships, but this is definitely the longest relationship he's had with the championship in over 10 years. So, you know, good for you, Zach.
But yeah, I wonder if Kurt Hawkins will be best man.
Possibly.
Would make sense. Yeah, it would make sense.
There's
a few choices with Zack Ryder here. Zack Ryder's like one of the most popular guys in the locker room.
Yeah, I figure he's got he's tight with The Miz,
Ziggler.
He's tight with Ziggler. Even, you know, outside of the locker room, he and Cody are really good friends. So, and there's also like Chiappetta, and you know.
Oh, I remember Chiappetta.
I bet Cody's like licking his lips. It's going to be like a huge networking opportunity for AEW.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Oh, I'm sure they're going to try to plan an event inside the weekend of the wedding. It'll be a big AEW get-together. Starcast.
What if Zack Ryder's dad is the best man?
I think Can you blame him? The guy loves his son, and maybe if not the best man, one of the groomsmen for sure. But
what about Big O?
I don't think that they're friends anymore.
Really?
I think.
Oh no.
Yeah, I think one of them called the other one a phony piece of crap or something like that. They're not too tight.
Strikes me as Big O would probably call him the phony one out of like jealousy or something like that if that were the case. But
Potential.
I don't know. Hey, maybe Kofi's dad's gonna be the best man. I just had to bring that joke back in. Why not? Yeah, congrats to the couple. And as far as I know, they hadn't been dating like super long. I think it might have only been like a year or something, right? Or maybe my timeline's off. But hey, when you know, you know. So
yeah.
I'm just going to go in order of the things that I've got listed here and bounce around a little bit. But one of the things that had been rumored leading up to WrestleMania was that new title belts were coming. And it was said by belt fan Dan that there were 3 of them. One of them was, this was confusing to me. It was supposed to be the Raw Tag Team titles had a completely brand new design, partially to include side plates. The SmackDown Tag titles, the way that it was worded, it read to me as they're staying the exact same design that they are now, except they're adding side plates, which would make absolutely no sense to me, because if you're going to change the Raw tag titles, why wouldn't you change the SmackDown to ones to, kind of coincide with that? There's no reason to have SmackDown retain the old title design and just switch the side plates. That doesn't make any sense to me. And then there was another one that was said to be another thing on the Raw side that would, quote, upset collectors, but make fans happy. So far, we haven't really seen that, except there was one thing that had been changed, and that's the Universal Championship has Velcro now instead of having the little snaps, which I think is stupid, but that's not the big change, I would assume. What do you guys think is going on here? Is this just bullshit? Scuttlebutt? Is there any foundation to it?
I think Belt Van Dan is a very well-known name in the belt collecting world, so I think there's some truth to it. And let's not forget, the tag team titles, the pennies, were ready to go for DX, and DX said, yeah, we're not taking them, so you can hold on to those. And same thing with the WWE Championship after the spinner. It was ready to go, maybe right as Punk won the belt from Cena, and they just held out for it for The Rock. So maybe they're just waiting for a more prestigious tag team or something of that matter.
I can't say. Well, I can't rule it out completely. WWE has a tendency to change its mind at the last minute. So maybe those belts were ready to go on the day, and it's just had a look at them and said, "Yeah, I don't like them anymore," and then just threw them away afterwards. But yeah, it's hard to really tell. I could actually imagine the Velcro changing to the or changing to Velcro from the previous snaps could be the thing that was upsetting collectors, because it makes it look like quite chintzy now.
But why would it excite fans?
That's the thing that throws me off about that too.
Because it's Velcro. Velcro is exciting. just like really quick to rip on and rip off. It's great. Velcro is the most exciting product.
See, I was under the impression that maybe it would be something like it's gonna quote unquote upset fans because maybe, I don't know, Finn Balor is gonna get a new Intercontinental Championship. I mean, it's not gonna upset fans. The opposite around. I'm getting all mixed up here. It's what excite fans but upset collectors would be that maybe Finn Balor would introduce a new Intercontinental Championship that would just basically be the same design but with side plates and a different color strap. That's what I was assuming. Like maybe he gets like a red strap for it or something to go along with the demon thing, or whatever, because that way it would be like, oh damn it, we're a collector and now we have to get the red strap one, what the hell? But then other fans would be like, that's kind of cool, we get a new strap or whatever. But I don't know. I mean, if it's a Velcro thing, then that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me for the whole that's going to excite people, because I can't imagine many people really being like, whoa, the Universal Championship got so much better because now it's Velcro. And the Raw tag title and SmackDown tag title thing, that just makes no sense to me at all. So we've gotten new champions. We have a new Universal Champion, we have a new Intercontinental Champion, new Raw and new SmackDown tag champions. The only thing that would make any sense to me is if they're waiting for the Superstar shakeup.
I was just gonna say that maybe they're waiting to shake things up and also introduce new belts.
And then if that's the case, I mean, Monday night would be more than likely when we would see those unveiled, but I don't know. I mean, maybe there's some truth to this whole thing that they've been saying of the Hardy Boys and Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder. They said, hey, there's been a lot of talk about winner take all, champion versus champion type things. What if we do that on Monday? That's got a good ring to it. Maybe they're merging those. And maybe the idea is that there isn't two sets. Maybe it's just one set for tag champions again, happening in the next week.
I'm okay with that.
I'm not a big fan. But, I mean, we'll see. If the designs end up being something that changes, at least hopefully they can be better. And maybe, I don't know, maybe they can kind of like take the template of the women's tag titles and just change where it says women's to say Raw and SmackDown. And then I'd be totally cool with that, because that's actually a good title design in my mind. But I don't know, we're going to find out. If it's not the Superstar shakeup, then I really can't imagine that they're doing it anytime soon. And it could just be bullshit. Kind of like that Cruiserweight tag title thing that never really amounted to anything.
That is true. That was rumored for quite some time. And the North American belt snuck up on
that
us.
came out of nowhere.
So
there
knows?
was no buzz about that.
Who knows?
I don't know. We'll see. Maybe the hot tags next week are going to be, look at the new designs for the title belts. Don't we love/hate them? Might be something like that. So stay tuned. Let's talk about some different things that are on the WWE Network that have passed by the past couple of weeks, or past couple of days. One of them is WWE Untold, how Sting finally debuted in WWE. I know that I watched all of these, but I know that you guys didn't get a chance to watch all of them. So who checked out Untold?
I did.
I didn't get a chance to see it yet.
I thought this was really good, and I really enjoyed Hunter and Road Dogg and a few other people saying the only reason he beat Sting was because they were going to do that angle with The Rock and set up The Rock for next year. And I'm sad that we didn't get that match with The Rock. And yeah, I think Sting being in WWE was great. You could say whatever you want about how they executed it, but it was a fun thing to have, and that match in particular was, really fun and nostalgic. I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the special. I'd say thumbs up.
Definitely thumbs up to me too. And it's like not only good for the insight of the Triple H and The Rock and that kind of explanation, but even just some things about how Sting basically views his career, where they swept over that Seth Rollins stuff like as if it didn't happen. And they were referring to this as like that's the end of his career and that's a great way to go out and all that other kind of stuff. And it's a shame that the Undertaker thing couldn't have happened. Like they always mention that, which is, true. But it does make sense a little bit more now that they would be like, well, we had an idea for the Undertaker and we figured we could just do this next year. And then, of course, the injury happens and that fucks everything up. And in the meantime, we've got the Triple H thing, so we need to have a Triple H win. And, that made me feel a little bit better about the Sting situation. Also, the highlight to me, which quote that I had written down, was Triple H saying, if you had told me 15-year-old me, if you had told 15-year-old me that I would be wrestling Sting at WrestleMania in front of thousands of people, but before that I'd make an entrance dressed as a Terminator surrounded by a bunch of robots. It's like, yeah, it makes a lot of sense to just be like, 15-year-old Paul, you're just like, dude, it's going to happen in however many years. This. And it'd be like, you got to be fucking kidding me.
And that is pretty cool. You don't think about it, but Triple H is kind of young enough to have idolized Sting, at least in the early part of his career, and transition from, bodybuilding and training to pro wrestling, and I actually really liked this. And Callum, if you would have checked it out, you would have noticed something funny, because you always talk about Triple H, the creator, and the performer. They all kind of had different stories as how the match actually came up. Like, Hunter is humble and says that, Sting wanted to wrestle him, and Sting immediately in the next clip says, yeah, and then Hunter threw his name out there.
And I was like, yeah, okay.
I just thought
because
that
he
was
is a
funny.
politician. He's one of the ultimate politicians. I mean, I obviously haven't had a chance to check it out, but based around the story of the idea that, I mean, I can understand that being the reasoning behind it. It's still a dumb reason. I mean, so Triple H had to beat Sting, so that would make the match with The Rock even bigger at WrestleMania. It's like, wow, Triple H versus The Rock at WrestleMania 32 doesn't mean anything if Triple H lost to Sting in this match. Like,
No,
wow, Triple H doesn't mean anything there anymore. It's like, God, he lost to Sting? God, he might as well go out in the opener against Heath Slater or something.
And it's odd because it is that WWE mentality of, all right, so they think Sting is going to be the hero, but now he won't be. The Rock is going to be the guy who kicks your ass because he's The Rock and we made him.
I mean, you say it's that WWE mentality. It's that Triple H mentality. It's like, yeah, I mean, I could lose this match, but I've got the match with The Rock coming up like next year, so maybe I should, look strong in this one. And then I'll lose to The Rock unless there's another bigger match coming up the year after, in which case I might have to beat The Rock as well. Just
that.
I don't think The Rock would have done the job. I think he would have left. Maybe that's why it didn't happen.
I don't know, but I still like the special. I still think that people should check it out. So still see it as far as I'm concerned.
Untold in general is a real gem on the network.
Yeah, they're quick. They're pretty efficient. They pack quite a bit in like 20 minutes. So, yeah, I like them. Then we had the Chronicle edition for Charlotte Flair, which was very strange to debut right before WrestleMania because she came off as like, the baby face essentially, and made her really sympathetic, which is hard to do for a heel heading into it. So I didn't really like that. There were parts of it that I liked. I mean, like the special itself, parts of it that I liked, but I don't know. I didn't really like the placement of it. Watching that like 2 nights beforehand, and special wise, I think that it's kind of worth seeing if you're into Charlotte Flair, but if you don't really get too invested in her, maybe you should skip it, because it is very much like, here's the story of, it's so important to me that we're in the main event because my brother had died, and that's kind of heavy, So I'm on the fence about see it or skip it.
I watched it. It premiered after TakeOver, if I'm correct. And I thought it was really well done, except I don't like the way they do Chronicle. This one and the Ambrose one were very, mixing storyline with these real elements. And like you were saying, it's very hard to get a feel for, Charlotte Flair is such a bitch. She's handed everything, because they presented a really sentimental favorite, and honestly, it left me going, I wouldn't mind seeing her win on Sunday.
Did you get a chance to see this, Callum?
It was a busy weekend.
Callum has a life unlike we do.
No, that's completely not true. But I decided to spend the rest of the weekend watching other wrestling rather than stuff on the network.
So, what'd you think of Joey Ryan's penis party?
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it.
Damn it.
That was a waste of several hours of my life that I'm never getting.
Just the sound of it kind of proves that that's the case.
Just spend 5 minutes staring at two people ram their butts against each other.
Yeah.
It's it made me question whether I should watch WrestleMania or not at that point.
We also had the Table for Three, which was Independent Spirit. It featured Adam Cole, Johnny Gargano, and Ricochet. And I thought that this was actually a pretty good Table for Three. They've been kind of slacking on that quite a bit. They've had these groups that don't really have that much to talk about, but these guys all had a good camaraderie together. They had these little inside jokes, and they were talking about the differences of that they miss being able to sell their merch and directly see people buy the 50 shirts that they had brought with them, and they really kind of equated Johnny Gargano to being like the hardcore guy, and a lot of perspective like that, and I thought that was really cool. So thumbs up for me on Table for Three.
And I will definitely watch it when I get the chance to, but I did not get to see it, so I can't contribute here.
Oh, that's useful because I actually
There you
watched
go.
it. Yeah. So, yeah, I quite enjoyed it as well. I found that the funniest part of it was when they started talking, like you say, about the stuff they missed on the independent circuit, and then when Johnny's the one who brings it up, and the other two just stare at him for a minute or like a couple of seconds, like, what do I regret, like, or what do I miss about that stuff? And then he brings up the idea of obviously selling your merchandise, actually printing out the stuff, and knowing that you have to, well, not have to sell it all, but actually being in front of somebody and handing it over to them because they actually really appreciate your work was a good feeling. And then he started coming up with like one or two others, like immediately, like that was the Kickstarter to start thinking, oh yeah, actually the independent scene was pretty good. But the stuff they talked about, like the Johnny Gargano going through the barricade thing, I mean that looked like it sucked. I loved all of the old footage they had. I thought that was the fact they could get hold of that stuff was really, really good. Just seeing Adam Cole, I had no idea that was Adam Cole with the Serena
Yeah,
Deeb
me
thing.
neither. That was, I mean, we're talking back at a time frame where I didn't even know who Adam Cole was, and that's every once in a while that kind of stuff pops up. Like Dash Wilder was one of the guys that was handing out paper bags during the Dash and Cody Rhodes gimmick. Never knew that was a thing until recently, and with this one, it was just like, yeah, I was the guy who was with Serena trying to get her to drink, and it was like, fuck, really? Like, that's weird.
He was only like 19 at the time as well.
That's crazy.
But and so that was like, well, it must have been about 10 years ago now. So, but that means he's still like just in his early 30s at the latest. So he's got quite a while to go still, considering how much of a name that he's created for himself. And Johnny Gargano is the Liechtenstein champion that faced MVP on the episode of SmackDown. That was a little funny trip back in time. It's like the only person that didn't seem to have any history in WWE before joining was Ricochet.
Yeah, but then they had footage of him when he had that long hair, and it looked ridiculous. Yeah. And Gargano had different hairstyles in the past that looked really ridiculous too. And
yeah, Gargano looked like he was wrestling as a heel for most of the
that's
time.
strange.
He was.
He just doesn't strike me as that.
Yeah,
like I'm so used to Johnny wrestling in NXT, and
because they had the match between Adam Cole and Johnny Gargano from Evolve, and like Adam Cole's like in his early 20s or whatever, and he's the one who's the babyface facing Johnny Gargano. It's just a huge juxtaposition to what we just saw at Takeover.
So I can contribute a funny independent story since we just talked about Joey Ryan. I went to a show in 2015, and I had to make a choice between getting a picture with Candice and Joey and getting a picture with Gargano, and I kind of just looked and smiled at Gargano and didn't say anything and got the picture with Candice and Joey, and I regret that so much. Like, I regret not getting that moment and talking with Johnny Gargano, because now he's one of my favorites, and I'm not the biggest fan of Joey Ryan, to be honest. Candice is great, though.
Yeah, it's kind of strange when you're looking back at those kind of, they turned into this, and you're kind of like, shit, like.
Did you at least get a free lollipop?
He offered, but it had hair on it, and I said no.
Yeah, so check out the Table for Three. That one was a good addition. A couple little extra things that were fun in that. We're not going to spoil everything, but another thing that had happened recently on the WWE Network, which had a lot of buzz around it, and not for the reason that it should, was the Hall of Fame ceremony. And we didn't get a chance to talk about this because, way too many podcasts, and we weren't going to do any kind of a post show or something like that. And this would have just been on the hot tags. The schedule was recap and review of the Hall of Fame ceremony. But we have to add an extra little thing about that. And that's going to be talking about Bret Hart's attacker. But first, I want to talk about the Hall of Fame ceremony itself. Ignoring the Bret Hart situation. People came up there, they gave their speeches, they did their usual stuff. We got a different set. We got some inductees, some inductors, some, some different surprises here and there, and some different things throughout the night that were positive and negative. But first question, what did you guys think about the new set? I thought it was pretty good looking, but at the same time, maybe not as functional as they wanted it to be.
You're telling me.
So
it's interesting.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, you go first. You were ahead of me on that one.
So, first of all, with all of the nonsense of WrestleMania weekend, I was flipping between this and the G1 Supercard. My first thought when I saw the ring was, wow, they've finally given up on the whole, it's like a suit and tie thing. They're making it very fan friendly. I'd live to regret those words. But I thought it was nice for what they wanted to do with it. As far as like the induction speeches and stuff, about as well as you would think. Honky Tonk Man was fun, Tori Wilson looked great and had great composure considering she just lost her father the day before.
Yeah, fuck, that's like, God, what a horrible situation.
How the fuck do you not advertise and announce Stacy Keibler and John Cena being there?
Well, the John Cena thing was supposed to be a surprise. That was something that they did to surprise Sue Aitchison. But the Stacy Keibler thing, I don't know, maybe it was still kind of in question about whether or not she'd be able to do it. Not like she's like super duper busy. It's not like she's, filming 8 movies at a time or something like that. But, maybe she was still up in the air a little bit. Or maybe they just wanted it to be a total shock for everybody and just be like, yo, look at that, Stacy Keibler from back for the first time in like a dozen years.
I was shocked that she was there, like doing the induction for it. Not so much the fact that she's obviously very well tied to Tori's career, just the fact that she would want to come back to WWE at any point in time. She always seemed like the type of person, like when you leave essentially.
There's no universe like the WWE universe, Callum. And I think she did this for her friend, and honestly, both of them had tremendous speeches, and the speeches were actually my favorite part of the night. I thought the constant attacking of Hillbilly Jim was hilarious. And, I thought they were really fun. I had a ball with DX until they started talking about their real life issues and making me emotional, especially X-Pac.
Fuck, X-Pac, when he came out there and he's saying he basically thought that he would have killed himself before getting into the Hall of Fame, that was like, ooh, god damn, man, lots of the feels when it came to a lot of different things. Talking about China was tough a little bit for certain people here and there. Really glad that they gave her like quite a bit of their speeches, because they could have easily just unknowingly too just kind of brushed off China and talked about themselves, but most of them seemed to take the time to add her into some of their speech. So that was good. Billy Gunn getting real choked up. That was kind of surprising to me.
Yeah, I was a little surprised myself.
I fucking loved the shots that they took at certain things. Like, one of my favorite lines of the whole night was Billy Gunn. They're talking about like Triple H brings up this idea that one thing you're not supposed to do is thank Vince McMahon. Do not say Vince McMahon. Specifically, don't thank Vince McMahon. And they're doing this whole thing about like, no, I said don't thank Vince McMahon. Do not say thank you, Vince McMahon, and all this other kind of stuff. So that's funny to know that he's probably backstage being like half laughing his ass off and half like actually pissed, But that leads to the discussion of like, oh, he's going to come out and fire you, or whatever like that. And Billy Gunn has a great little quip of like, can't fire me. And then right back at that, he'll buy that pissant company and fire you twice. I loved that. That was so good. I mean, it's not good if like they actually were to keep referring to AEW as a pissant company, but it's just a little shot like that, it's fun. What'd you guys?
Well, he also had the we can't do this. I'm the executive vice president of talent. and live events, and I don't know what that means. But people feel like if you put Executive Vice President in front of your name, you're important. And I thought it was really funny because it's DX doing what DX did to get over, taking shots at other companies, kind of just acting like they run the show because, well, at least Hunter does. And I had a good time with it. My favorite thing being the crowd starts going too sweet, and they do the whoop whoop afterwards, and Triple H just goes, "I don't know what that is. That's stupid. We never did that, but you guys do it. It makes you happy." Like,
some of the comments, especially with the Billy Gunn AEW stuff, it makes me feel like it's not going to be a real wrestling war between these two. It's just going to be a bit of light ribbing of each other, which I think is just for the best, really. I think it's just it shows like a signal that they're both going to try and just build up the wrestling audience as opposed to try and take each other out of business as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not getting that feel of the Monday Night Wars or the situation that tried to happen with TNA where they were like, we're going to bring the fight to WWE, and they were like, huh, like that kind of thing. Yeah. It seems a little bit more like,
I think
we see you, and we're going to poke fun, and we're going to try to make sure that people don't get signed to your company, but at the same time, we're not feeling like, we're not feeling like you're trying to take money away from us and food off our table, that kind of thing.
But just to say about like the set, because it just the fact that it is a ring, I think just makes it feel a little bit more just, I would say wholesome, but just like it feels more just like a big wrestling event as opposed to just, oh, you're on the stage. I know the stages, obviously the previous stages always looked good and it was always felt like a big, more of a big deal, more grandiose event, but the fact that it has a ring makes it just feel a bit more wrestling, which I quite enjoyed. It made the whole thing much more accessible. It's almost like you could reach out and grab the superstars in the ring because you're just...
Well, before we get to that giant elephant in the room, I loved the DX Super Soaker thing, and specifically Triple H just going after Baron Corbin.
He just kept going after him, and he's like, "All right, stop!" And Triple H is like, like I don't know, like the elementary school bully. He's just sitting there like, like just kind of like having so much fucking fun, attacking Baron Corbin with that, trying to get like his bald head in like in the sights and everything. I thought that was fucking hilarious.
I love that he didn't really thank Stephanie. He's just like, my kids, hi kids, I love you more than you love me, and Steph. You know, like, you guys already know. It's Steph.
I actually liked what he said with Steph. He just said forever. And I was like, you know what? He doesn't need to say more than that. That sums it all up. Just, I love you forever. You are, the one for me, all this other kind of stuff all wrapped into, And he doesn't need to go on for 10 minutes about that. Like, but DX was great. Honky Tonk Man had his granddaughter, I think that was. I think she was the one that came out there, and I thought that it was Cherry at first, and I was just like really confused for the first 5 seconds that she was out. I'm just like, what the fuck? They don't have any kind of connection. And then I'm like, oh, never mind, it's not her. Jimmy Hart's speech I thought was funny because he was just kind of like, all right, let me get through this real quick. I met this guy, and then we did this thing, and then we met this guy, and this guy said to bring this guy on, and then this guy said that's a Honky Tonk Man. All right. And I was just sort of like, that's what? Like, what the fuck? But Jimmy Hart looks pretty good for his age. Brutus the Barber Beefcake, not so much. He was kind of the low point for me. It particularly watching him do that strut was pretty painful. And at least he got his moment, so that's cool. Hulk Hogan had his speech, and nothing really like too positive or negative to say about that. One thing that I did notice was that the New Day, they were like very amped up the entire time, and they were kind of like silent protesting Hulk Hogan, which I think that's the right thing to do if you feel that way, rather than to try to make a big scene or something like that. Randomly throughout the night, though, Big E started just eating stuff. And I don't know exactly what he's eating. I don't know if it was like sliders or if it was like chicken wings or something or like tacos. Like, I don't know. It looked like it was like some kind of orangish type stuff or whatever, but that was a what the fuck kind of moment. I loved how they kept doing back and forth cutting between Daniel Bryan and Kofi Kingston, or Shane McMahon and The Miz, or different things for people to do the yeah, boo, yeah, boo. That was so good. A funny moment I thought was good was Road Dogg randomly pointing out, he goes, "Hey, that's the mayor of Knox County." It's just like stupid little moment. Lots of feel-good moments and stuff like that throughout the night, but the show stealer of the whole thing, easily, not planned at all, which is some random fucking fan just decides to run into the ring and attack Bret Hart. He tackles him, and there hasn't been any real firm, like, this is exactly what happened, he punched him X amount of times, or, like anything like that. And to clarify what the issue was and why he did this, the only bit of information that he has said so far was, I thought it was the right time.
He's not...
He's insane.
Yeah, his name is Zachary Madsen. He's a lunatic. A former stalking victim of his came out and said he has mannerisms akin to a mass shooter. And honestly, the only thing he gave was, it was the right time.
Which is just very scary, because he could have easily had something like, a knife, or maybe even a gun if he was able to get that in there, or, like, lots of things could have been so much worse. And not only is Bret Hart and Natalya, not only are they thankful, I'm sure, that wasn't worse, but everybody, like, that could have been really bad situation.
And shout out everybody that hit the ring so quickly, including people like Edge. Edge was one of the first
Tyson
to hit the
Kidd,
ring,
despite the fact that they're both injured. The New Day jumped on that real quick, and they're right in the front row, so that makes a lot of sense. But I mean, they didn't hesitate at all. Travis Brown, he got in there real fucking fast, and he started wailing
and jumped on the guy.
Yeah, so that was a shock, because he has no direct, employment to WWE. He has obviously a connection when it comes to Ronda Rousey, but even Ronda Rousey, she's just there as this special attraction. And she came up at one point to check on Natty. Heath Slater was real pissed. Harry Smith was one of the ones that I think he had said in an interview, or somebody had said by proxy of him or something like that just he would have basically killed the guy if they wouldn't have pulled him off of him. Dash Wilder gets a real good shot in just out of nowhere. Just kind of, bops the guy in the face. Braun Strowman, I thought was funny, because he's casually walking around like, if I gotta go fuck someone up. I really liked the look on Ali's face after Dash had knocked the guy down. Ali's kind of just sort of like, God damn it, I gotta pick this guy up now, whatever. Lots of people. Zack Ryder came around, and one of the standouts to me, which I thought was really interesting, was Drake Maverick. He jumped into that mix real fast, and he also was the one that he kind of took it upon himself to get onto the mic and say, pay no attention to that man, let's try to get this back on track. I liked this so much more than I should have. And it's not not out of a schadenfreude kind of thing, of just being wow, this is interesting because it's drama or whatever, but it actually made me feel really happy for, the WWE community and everything, that all these people immediately just jumped to fuck that, we're going to go protect Natty and Bret no matter what's going on and all that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of connotations to just link off from the back of this. It's, I mean, like you say, there is some sort of enjoyment to get out of it because of the camaraderie shown by WWE superstars. It's probably the most watched and entertained that you could probably get by watching a 61-year-old stroke victim get attacked by a fan or something along those lines. I mean, it's not. Listen, at the end of the day, this guy could have had anything on him. The security in the building was absolutely atrocious to allow this sort of situation to happen. And the fact that it had to be broken up by WWE superstars and not by arena security. Obviously, arena security got involved in the end to drag him away, many, many minutes too late. but it's just a case of, but it ended up being the WWE superstars having to protect one of their own, or at least one of their forefathers, pretty much, to end this situation. I love watching the video footage back and just seeing how quick some of the people are to get into shot. Because this guy, as soon as he has his hands around Bret Hart, both Travis Brown and Shane McMahon are right in shot immediately. You just see that they clearly saw this guy running in from the other side of the ring and were immediately off their feet and into the ring as well. And so that was pretty cool to see. And obviously the New Day in there, Drake Maverick, Drew McIntyre, loads of big dudes. It's going to fuck this guy up. And I think besides obviously Harry Smith and eventually just Dash Wilder, most of them tried to keep their cool in the situation. I think obviously it raises questions about whether fans should be allowed to attend these sort of events going forward, because you shouldn't try and ruin the entire thing based on one fan coming through, one nut job over the last however many years or so. And as far as I'm aware, there wasn't much. I haven't actually watched the whole thing back, but there doesn't seem to be too much case of fans hijacking the show as in terms of chants and things along those lines, which is probably a positive. Maybe this helped that situation, because just a load of they wouldn't want to be dicks after watching the ultimate dick come through.
Yeah, well, that's great to hear them say though, fuck him up and asshole and stuff.
Yeah.
Everybody other than that guy were in agreement of hey, fuck this guy.
I mean, if you've had a look through, I looked through this guy's Twitter feed in just checking out afterwards, and this guy, like you say, he's fucking nuts. And most of his tweets in the build-up to WrestleMania were tweets directed directly at Vince McMahon and Triple H, basically telling him, why are you so stupid to have women in the main event of WrestleMania?
Which is really kind of curious why he decided to pick Bret Hart's induction thing to be the time to do that, instead of something not that this is a suggestion, but you would think that maybe he would have gone after Tori.
Well, he probably loved Tori because she was just one of these women that knew her place, just prancing around in bra and panties matches in his mind or anything along those lines, rather than, I don't know, maybe it was the Natalia aspect of it, or maybe he thought that attacking Bret Hart would get the most notoriety.
Maybe, I don't know.
And also, and some guy that, because he's he was, at least I assume he's never going to go back an MMA fighter, an amateur MMA fighter. So maybe he thought this was a guy, especially considering Bret's age and his condition and the stuff that he's gone through in the past, somebody he could take down and do some damage to before he would get taken out himself. I mean, you can't really
reason with somebody who's, no justification.
Absolutely crazy, yeah. And some of the stuff that he's saying. I'd also like to take an opportunity now, just so we have a bit of a platform and some few people that can say some stuff. If you want to go to Twitter and find the and I don't want to condone any sort of any real reckless behaviour, but if you want to go to the NWA Legends at NWA Legends on Twitter, who is one of, I assume, the few who decided to make the idea of, wow, I can't believe that Paul Heyman booked this entire thing, so the fans would get super excited and this would attract a load of media attention. Well done, Paul, and all of that stuff. Essentially, his rationale was, how could security be so bad to let a fan get through that far? Clearly, this was premeditated, like everything in WWE. It's one of those people. So if you want to just take an opportunity to just find some of the tweets he says about that, and maybe just leave a little a helpful reminder for him. Don't be mean, but just say, I think you've got that wrong. Just be polite about it.
Yeah, they booked this whole thing, and that's why they booked the courtroom afterward, and that's why they booked the sentencing.
Oh yeah, but that's the thing. He didn't believe. Obviously, this is a desperate guy, Tony. This is a guy who was just trying to make ends meet in his fighting career. He had nothing to lose, so he'd settle for some jail time for a bit of exposure like that.
And there was also some people on social media who said that the superstars are wrong and shouldn't have retaliated. And yeah, you don't know what business you're watching if you feel that way, because this was out of place in 2019, but in 89 and maybe even 99 to an extent, wrestlers would beat the shit out of any fan who decided to cross that line. They don't know what you're coming at them with. You're a danger to them at that point. They have every right. And again, just credit to everybody who stepped up and protected Bret Hart. And they got the show back on track very quickly.
Yeah, for having something like that could have derailed the entire show, they pretty much only took about like 3 or 4 minutes or so to get everything wrapped up and back to normal. That was really like, it was scary for a little bit there because they cut the feed out and you're just like, oh shit, something just happened.
Well, yeah, it's just like, as you said, this guy could have had anything on him at this point in time. It's like the fact that he just decided to go in with his fists is fortunate for us, at the very least, fortunate for Bret, and the fact that they could get to deal with him pretty quickly. I mean, this guy clearly didn't plan out his thing very well. Yeah, I'll just rush the ring. What could possibly go wrong?
You gotta think, like, I wonder if, like, that he was psyching himself up. Like, if he's, like, sitting there waiting in line to get into the arena, and he's finding his seat, and he's watching the, like, the, Tory and Honky Tonk Man and all that, and sitting there going, like, now it's not the time, and then eventually he's just kind of like, I can't take it anymore, and just fucking runs, and no barricades, no blocking of that. Like, maybe if they're going to keep this kind of stage in the future, which, I don't know, I mean, there's some positives and some negatives to the whole ring thing. I think that it's kind of weird that you have people surrounding it, but, whatever. Maybe they need to start thinking about the idea that maybe the fans shouldn't be on that bottom level. Maybe they should have to be up higher.
I agree.
Maybe that bottom level's restricted to just the WWE, like, personnel and stuff. I don't know. I'm not an event planner. But whoever the event planner is did a shit job when it came to this part.
Or maybe you should take people from, like, the NXT live events and just make them extra security for the night.
Like the
I would agree with that. Like NXT talent, yeah.
Well, I would assume that pretty much all the talent is there, or at least invited.
No,
yeah,
they still do access at certain points during.
If you invite everybody that is working for WWE, which they pretty much should, it's the Hall of Fame. But like, you invite even like that one trainer that works at the Performance Center and does the really good Stone Cold impression. Like, you can fill up that bottom area between friends and family and all those people. And then you can just sell, I mean, yeah, they're not going to be like, no, we're going to do it in a closed area with no fans, because then it doesn't have the same atmosphere and they don't get to sell out an arena and all that other kind of stuff, but charge a little bit higher pricing and make it less seats and, separate the fans a little bit more. And I think that would be a better way to go about it, because the people that care about this stuff are the people that are going to watch it. People that don't care about it aren't going to watch it.
And if you don't mind me doing the segue here, this was happening right as over on the G1 Supercard, Enzo and Cass hit
you got to imagine that they're probably pissed that their idea of being like, we're going to do this invasion and it's going to be everything that people are talking about, and then people are like, yeah, exactly at the same time as that's happening, and we don't give a shit about you and Enzo and Cass.
Yeah, exactly.
That is the next topic that I wanted to talk about. Big Cass and Enzo are a part of ROH. They're doing this whole invasion thing. At first, people are like, whether or not it's true, and then of course it seemed a little bit more like it actually was just planned, and now it's come out that it actually just flat out is. So I didn't watch G1 Supercard. I don't plan on watching it, and I don't know how I feel about the whole Enzo and Cass going there thing. I feel maybe a little bit more along the lines of what some of the other people have come out to say, which is like, why did we bother signing them? Sort of.
Well, first of all, the show itself, specifically when there was large ROH involvement, it's kind of meh. And I thought that it really showed that between the two organizations, the real strength does lie with New Japan. And this Enzo and Cass stuff is kind of really picture-perfect reasoning as to why Ring of Honor isn't as sought after as it once was. Like, Enzo and Cass in ROH, it just doesn't seem like a good fit to me. This is something of a TNA level. Oh my god, we got Enzo and Cass and they're invading, and like, this doesn't seem like a Ring of Honor, and especially not a New Japan.
Nor does it seem like the fucking Outsiders, because nobody's going to care as much.
And let's be honest, these are two men who left WWE under highly controversial circumstances, both having to do with really I don't want to say endangerment. Help me out here, Callum. They haven't
I'm not
had
gonna
the
say
best
anything.
track record.
I'm not gonna say anything incriminating.
I'm not saying that, like, Enzo had.
And Enzo was accused by a woman on Twitter
And
of raping her. That's fair enough to say, but it's the idea that it was proven that like this woman's was highly uncredible in her position.
Let's put it this way:
And
they
so,
both racked up more than enough negatives that they could have been fired for any of them, whether or not some of them were true.
Oh,
there we go.
Oh yeah, that is fundamentally true. But it's the idea of there isn't enough strong evidence to suggest that they did any of these seriously negative things
Right.
that they were accused of.
Right.
So that there's no issue in that regards of RH bringing them in, except for the fact that they carried those reputations from the events just based on being accused.
Not only do they have that stigma, but there seems to be plenty of evidence of them not getting along with people backstage, just regular behavior. And if that's the case, then that's not good for them. And if that's even not a factor, it's just a matter of it's big Cass and Enzo. Like the big thing that they're going to do is, I don't know, be a tag team again and do a ripoff of their gimmick from WWE. Who cares? You know?
Exactly.
The biggest issue for it to me is like obviously regarding the fact that when you see the actual fight take place, it's so absolutely choreographed, and Big Cass looks in terrible shape. Like he looks very chunky around the midriff, more than he used to. It's just a case of what Ring of Honor was supposed to be in its heyday, an organization about independent wrestling, which is focusing about the work rate and the matches within the ring, and you're bringing these two clowns essentially from the big promotion up north, and it's showing. And then obviously as well during the night, you bring in the beautiful people as part of your Women of Honor division. It's just so this isn't what Ring of Honor stood for. Ring of Honor is now becoming an Impact Wrestling style WWE light promotion, which is the absolute worst thing that they could possibly do, because WWE light promotions die, and they die very quickly after becoming a WWE light promotion. As for Impact Wrestling still going on, it might as well be dead. It'd probably be better off dead at this point in time, except for obviously the people that are working for it. They're still getting paychecks. Well, at least we believe they are anyway.
And then now.
Yeah, and in this situation, it's just a case of it's not going to kill Ring of Honor, but it's going to greatly reduce its popularity.
Right, and thank you both, because that is exactly the major point of what I was trying to get to. This doesn't feel like ROH, and it definitely doesn't feel like an ROH that I want to watch.
I mean, but based on the little bits and pieces that I've picked up about it, well, Sean Ross Sapp, when discussing this, posited the idea that Bully Ray is getting a lot more power behind the scenes, and the Enzo and Cass signing, not so much like I don't know if it was actually like pushed for by Bully Ray. I assume the beautiful people almost certainly was, but it's the idea because obviously Velvet Sky and him are dating, and then you have the idea of just like this was upper management decision against the wishes of the booking team, who and already this is creating like huge divides. And I don't say like it's going to be completely irreparable damage or anything along those lines, but it's clear there's some sort of division between like the booking and creative teams in Ring of Honor and the people that are actually like running and paying for the shows, which is not a good position you ever want to be in.
And if you've ever heard, and I just want to kind of wrap this up by talking about the beautiful people / allure thing, which is what they're going by now. I've never heard such indifference. Not like, oh, we hate this, but like almost silence. Like, fucking really? This is what we're going with? Then when Velvet Sky and Angelina Love walked down to the ring. And to be clear, I liked the beautiful people when they were doing it in, the mid-2000s. I think that at one point when it was the Divas division, the beautiful people might have been some of the best in-ring workers. However, it's 2019, and this did not fit.
Didn't see it, so I can't comment, but yeah, this is not going to make me want to watch either of those things. So they failed at that.
And one last question, Callum, since you did watch it, how did you feel about Matt Taven?
What's the Matt Taven
I don't know. Matt
He
Taven
won the
won
belt.
He won the Ring of Honor World Championship in a ladder match against Jay Lethal and Marty Scurll. It doesn't make sense to me. Matt Taven doesn't scream world champion to me.
Not Madison Square Garden, at least.
Didn't
No, and it's just a case.
Good.
I was say that like he had a decent match. Like he had like this hour-long showcase with Jay Lethal for the title a couple of weeks back, which earned him a bit more credibility. But in general, he just seems like I'm trying to think of a WWE comparison. It's definitely not Jinder Mahal level. Like this is a guy that has been groomed for the belt, but it seems like let's say you'd given the belt to Lex Luger in WWE. It's like just a guy who you've definitely groomed and he's definitely in position to be world champion, but everyone is there kind of thinking, yeah, but we'd rather have this guy be the world champion, or even this guy be the world champion. Maybe even this guy be the world champion before you give it to this guy. It's like he screams like upper mid card that has been pushed for some
like
reason.
Del Rio?
Yeah, I'd go that far in WWE. I mean, it depends on the context. Del Rio in Mexico works as that like big main event star, but in WWE just didn't work, and I don't think Matt Taven works anywhere almost. It's like he's just honestly, it's like Jeff Jarrett in terms of just being a champion of WCW, and you just think, really? Like Jeff Jarrett he's still good. Like Matt Taven's good in the ring and he's good on the mic, but he's just world champion, really? That sort of thing.
Well, is Jay Lethal signed to Ring of Honor for any extended period of time?
Yes.
What about Skrull?
He just resigned.
Skrull is a bit more of a up in the air thing. I think it's October. His contract will expire.
It's right now.
Okay, so
if
that's the case, AEW.
I've heard. Well, yeah, but I've heard conflating. You hear conflating stuff about that. Like I've heard some rumors suggesting that it's April, some suggesting it's October.
The last that I read was that he re-signed with them. He signed an extension with them to get through April, and I hope that he's on his way out.
I mean, you'd assume so if he didn't win the title. If he'd won the title, it would have made the most sense because he was definitely the most over guy in the match.
And Okada won the title from what's his face? So Jay White.
Jay White.
That seemed to me, from an outsider, it seemed like they had invested in this guy as sort of like the replacement Kenny Omega, and now they took the title away from him, which kind of defeats the purpose. Is that kind of how it is? Or
well, no. Well, yes, he was the replacement Kenny Omega in literal sense of they wanted Omega Okada in the Garden because it won Match of the Year last 2 years, and they thought this will be a great Madison Square Garden match. It'll put us on the map, be the best match of the weekend. Omega obviously did not stay, so they quickly, did the thing with Jay White. And to be clear, the match was very good, but it's no Kenny Omega match, and I think the right man won.
I think the idea behind that is, I mean, it's a weird time in New Japan in terms of their world title picture because the title's changed hands 4 times in the last 4 title defenses, which is really, really not New Japan in the sense of they had Okada obviously hold the title for like 500, 600 days. And now it's just gone from Omega obviously losing at Wrestle Kingdom, then to Tanahashi, then to Jay White, and now back to Okada. It's just very, very... I mean, it'll probably be a more sustained reign now that Okada's back with the title. But I think with the Jay White thing, it's not a case of it being like the experiment's is over and we thought we had something in Jay White and we obviously made a bit of an error then. We'll just put the title back on our top guy. I think it's a case of, like, when they first gave the title to Okada, he didn't hold it for very long. And he was like an upstart in the same way that Jay White is. So I think it's just a road, like, I guess, like, just an obstacle that Jay White will have to eventually overcome to become, like, a real top guy. And now he's just going to settle into the upper mid card for a while.
And to wrap up the New Japan talk, am I wrong in thinking it's Naito and Okada next year and Naito wins it?
Nope. Go back to Jay White.
Well, we'll see.
Or I put Tanahashi ahead of Naito at the moment as well.
Ooh, that's interesting. Because that's actually, when I was watching it, I was like, well, if you had Tanahashi Okada, and they're kind of like the John Cena Randy Orton, for lack of a better comparison, I would have just had them fight.
They just like had maybe it just felt like it was just a case of, I mean, you might think that because of obviously the New Japan show being in Madison Square Garden, they just go out on all the stops. But the thing about like Gato and New Japan's booking style is they don't really change for any reason. So if he has a plan in his mind, he's going to stick to it. Whether they were fighting they could have been fighting like literally, fighting Madison Square Garden, but they could have been fighting pretty much like opposite WWE in an event, and they could have put all their big stars in like top matches if they wanted to. But if it didn't fit the plan, they wouldn't go with it.
And I appreciate that.
Yeah.
No, I guess we'll
that's
figure out that when it comes down to the next couple of months or so.
A little non-WWE talk for the hot tags. A rarity.
One other quick thing about non-WWE talk is a little Impact, which is that Eli Drake has been fired.
Yeah, it's interesting to me.
He's been saying a lot of things recently that got under some people's skins, and I guess that was, one too many things or something, but he's been kind of critical on intergender wrestling, and I don't disagree with some of the things that he's saying. Some of them seem a little bit like he's picking a fight, but he's not in a good position right now, where right beforehand he basically said, like, fuck WWE, and then he gets fired from Impact. So that's not looking great.
He might be one of those guys who doesn't need or feel the need or want to go to a major promotion. Maybe he settles into the NWA route of doing stuff like Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, Championship Wrestling from Arizona. Maybe he, there's a chance he goes to AEW, but maybe he just does the North American independent scene until he can find a niche for himself.
I don't really know what to make of Eli Drake. Like he's fairly charismatic. I can't remember any match I've seen of his that has been particularly memorable. So I don't think he's bad, but he fits into a category that's maybe even worse than bad, which is completely forgettable. Like I'd rather watch a Great Khali match and be entertained by how bad it is than watch an Eli Drake match, in the most part. But it's just a case of for him. Like the comments they make about, like, I mean, the ones that I most caught my attention were the ones about the intergender wrestling. It's the idea of, like, he just responded to a guy's tweet saying that he didn't appreciate intergender wrestling, or said that it ruins like disbelief of wrestling and stuff along those lines. Or let's be honest, kayfabe is dead and buried. But it's the idea of, that still doesn't work. And at the end of the day, I don't do it in WWE, so you might think that would transition him over. But the fact that he made those comments means that he probably won't get signed by WWE.
Yeah, because he pretty much just shit all over the Performance Center, and he said that going there made him a worse wrestler and some other things. So it wasn't like his comments were something like, well, I went through the NXT system and it wasn't right for me at the time, or something where it's like, a little bit of flexibility to it. It was basically like, yeah, that sucked.
I mean, I think those comments about the intergender wrestling is going to make it tricky for him to go to AEW. Just because I'm pretty sure they will do intergender wrestling there, because Omega's one of the people in charge of it, and Omega has done that sort of stuff in the past. And they've shown that they haven't actually specifically shown it, but most of them have had intergender matches on the independent circuit, and they don't seem to have too much of an issue with it. I think those comments could come back to bite him in terms of finding employment. I'm sure he will, and I'm sure over time he will end up being in either AEW or some promotion along those lines. Ring of Honor seems to bring in on anybody they want to, really, so maybe he'd go to there as well. But yeah, I don't see him ever going to a promotion, though, and making a big impact, for pardon the pun. But it's just a case of he's just going to be there to fill up the numbers on the roster, in my mind.
I think his best bet, and I know I said it a couple times, but really that NWA system is his best fit. And I think that's where he goes. And again, like Tony said, not to say that I necessarily disagree with some of his comments, but it is a different time. Believability isn't as much of a major issue in wrestling as is entertainment and putting on the best possible story. Whether or not it would actually happen in real life takes a backseat to, well, I watched Atomic Blonde and she kicked a whole bunch of dudes' asses, and why can't we?
Yeah, it's just we're in a time frame right now where you got to watch everything you say, and whether or not you are standing up for something that you believe is, for the better in your opinion or whatever, you got to know that you're gonna, come under fire. And Eli Drake danced around that, ran into a situation where he got fired. Now, whether it's NWA or it's Ring of Honor, or I highly doubt that he's gonna go to like New Japan, but then again, who fucking knows? I don't know. It doesn't seem like he has the top three sort of really kind of covered. If we left Impact and shit all over NXT, and AEW doesn't seem to be like the right spot for him, then that's a bad situation. But hey, you dig your own grave, kind of. Really quickly, let's get this one out of the way. The Worlds Collide. That was something that they did at NXT, and for some reason, pretty much nobody decided to bother being there. It was one of the hardest things for me to try to keep track of throughout this whole 5 recording session, and I still don't have damn near any information about it. I got, I think, 2 days worth of it, and there's 5 things that they had recorded, one of them being NXT UK TV tapings, and I can't find information about this stuff anywhere. It's almost as if nobody was there. But for those, well, technically 5. The NXT UK tapings are going to air NXT UK just because they're TV tapings. The other 4 days worth of material is actually going to be aired in some capacity throughout the next month or so. And I'm a little bit worried that what they're going to do here is what they did the last time, which is hack the shit out of it and ignore certain things and kind of like, fuck around with it a little bit too much. But really quickly, to give anybody the information if they need to know about it, the NXT versus NXT Alumni is going to be Sunday the 14th, this upcoming Sunday at 8 o'clock on the WWE Network, and that's the one that's going to have Tyler Breeze versus Roderick Strong, Sanity versus the Undisputed Era, Dominik Dijakovic against Harper, and Cassius Ohno against Aiden English. And it's probably just going to be those matches, but other ones were recorded throughout the week. There is Cruiserweights Collide, which is going to be the 17th. That's a Wednesday at 9 o'clock. And that's got a bunch of different Cruiserweight matches. For instance, the Brian Kendrick against Tyler Bate. Then we have Women Collide, which is that following Wednesday, the 24th at 9 o'clock. And that's Io Shirai versus Sonya Deville, Zelina Vega versus Piper Niven, etc. Then we have Brands Collide, which is 2 Battle Royals. And that's Wednesday, the 1st of May. 9 o'clock for that one too. So this Sunday, then Wednesday. So they're going to be 1 hour specials probably, maybe an hour and a half, depending on how they balance all this kind of stuff out. And it's just going to be some extra little bit of TV stuff. So since this is a 4-episode thing, we're not going to be doing, like, obviously predictions because it already happened, nor are we going to be doing full breakdown pay-per-view point post shows or anything for these. What we might do, maybe depending on if we've got the flexibility, is maybe after the one on the 1st, maybe we'll do some kind of a special feature where it's like breaking down all 4 of them in one shot. Be like, well, this match was fun, this match sucked, and that was the best out of the 4 specials or something like that. But I don't really quite know yet, and part of it's going to depend on if anybody's really interested. So if you guys are really interested in what's going on with Worlds Collide, let me know, and I'll try to figure something else out. But that's 4 extra hours, at the very least, of more WWE content over the course of the next, because we need as much as we possibly can, right? And with that whole idea of the Saudi Arabia show switching over from the beginning of May until the beginning of June, then that's at least not making that part too crazy. But hey, you know, we have two more things to talk about, and that's actually the things that are on the thumbnail right now. So if you waited all this time, then hey, congrats, you're in the end game now. That's what Doctor Strange would tell you. One of them being that Dasha Fuentes was released by WWE, and this came about just sort of out of the blue, and now the only extra little detail about this has been that she was released on Thursday, which is very interesting because why would you fire somebody right before WrestleMania? There's no indication of why she was released, whether it was something like her contract was up and maybe they just didn't renew it, or maybe she did something to get fired. Doesn't seem like that's the case as much, though. She seems pretty just chill about it. Like, she had posted something on Instagram of her just, like, on vacation, and she was just like, you know, hey, on to new things, whatever. I'm not the biggest fan of the release, but at the same time, I don't think it really matters in the grand scheme of things. They've already replaced her with Sarah Schreiber, who I think that Dasha was better than Sarah. But in backstage interviews, they're as bland as they can possibly be, and as long as they didn't get rid of Charlie and Renee, and, well, Renee doesn't really do that anymore, but Charlie and Kathy, that's really all that mattered to me. How are you guys feeling about Dasha?
I have one very vivid memory of Dasha Fuentes, and it's after Mojo Rawley wins the Andre the Giant Memorial, and that following SmackDown, he does an interview with her, and he goes, "Can you feel it, Dasha?" And her response is just, "Not really." And that is my takeaway from Dasha Fuentes. Can you feel it? Not really. And yeah, that's kind of how I feel about this release.
I know the name Dasha Fuentes.
Falling into the trap of the Kayla and Charlie and Dasha?
I literally could not. The thing is, I can tell who Charlie is, definitely, and Renee. I can tell who Kayla is. I can tell who Sarah Schreiber is now as well. But Dasha was just somebody in the spew of these, like, other women who are. I mean, I disagree with you, Tony. I find all four of the other ones far more charismatic or entertaining than Dasha ever was. I mean, Sarah's new, but at least that's. Yeah, well, I think she actually has. What I've seen from her, like when she was on NXT and stuff like that, she actually looked like she could ask real questions and is like almost part human out of these slew of animatronics that they managed to put through the backstage interview process. Dasha was just. I can't. Literally, if I hadn't seen a picture in front of her in front of like a news story, I wouldn't be able to tell you what she looked like, or what ethnicity she is, or what hair color she has, or anything along those lines. It's like, yeah, it's just really, 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 really unforgettable. Forgettable, should I say? Not unforgettable. The complete opposite of unforgettable. Just forgettable.
I also agree with you on Sarah Schreiber. I think she's pretty good at what she does. I like Alicia on NXT. The
Alicia Taylor?
The new backstage interview. Yes. I really like her. She seems like she has some personality. And I think Charlie, in like the past month, maybe month and a half, has become the most human out of any of the animatronics. And
I'm just picturing the fucking Chuck E. Cheese animatronics now. Just
they're coming to life. They're more like Five Nights at Freddy's now.
Yes.
But it's the idea of like in terms of like what would have got her fired before WrestleMania. I'm going to guess that she allowed Alicia Fox to interview drunk. That seems to be the thing that gets you fired nowadays. I would love that sort of instance that Alicia Fox just is constantly getting drunk, and the other people that she's involved with are the ones that are getting fired, and she's just sticking around.
Everybody's like, "God damn it, Alicia! Now we have to fire this person." It's like, why don't you fire Alicia? And they're like, "Well, we can't fire Alicia, so we're gonna fire you." Like, I think that's more of a contract thing. Just sort of, a lot of contracts can potentially be coming up around this time frame, and maybe hers was on Thursday, and maybe they just kind of, said to her, like, look, it's WrestleMania week, and that kind of sucks that you're not going to be around for it, but your contract's up, and yeah, adios. We think that we're better off if we just kind of move on. Because let's not tout too much about this. I think Dasha was as if it changed. She's very pretty. She did her job fine, but the backstage interview thing is not something that takes a particular set of skills that's, highly advanced. A lot of people, and this sounds a little bit mean, but I kind of agree with it, they kind of refer to it as just the job of being a mic stand. Because essentially what they are doing is they're just softball lobbing this whole so this is the thing that you're going to talk about. Please talk about it. And then the person cuts a promo and acts like they're not even there. And then they stare off into the vapid distance void of nothingness. And whether you're, occupied in that kind of oblivion backstage scape that they kind of pop out of just to get these little interviews, or maybe you're somebody along the lines of Charlie does the pre-show panels for NXT, and she gets to have a little bit more personality with that. And Kathy does WWE Now, and she's able to do some stuff with that. She does Talking Snack. People like Sarah Schreiber and Kayla Braxton and Alicia Taylor, I haven't seen much of her recently, but I know that she's actually been a part of the mix. And the guy from NXT UK, who I just can never remember the name of, they really don't have that much of a purpose. So losing Dasha is kind of that's a shame. I'm sure she has a lot of friends there that are going to miss her. She'll figure out a way to get a similar type of job. She's pretty. She's talented enough. She'll get a job as a news anchor or something.
What a terrible job we've described them as having. They're just these animatronic people that come out of the void of nothingness from backstage, and when they're done being a mic stand, they stare off into the void, and that's
because we're well past the days of Mean Gene Okerlund, where people actually had a purpose for doing it. Now all they're doing is setting up the questions that they need the people to answer, and it's, I don't know. I mean, again, this sounds kind of mean to equate them to a machine, but back when I was a kid, you had people at McDonald's that would take your order and they would fuck it up. And eventually they got these little machine kiosks and they don't fuck up as much. And now they've been teasing this whole thing for, 2 years or whatever it is, of these handheld promos. And that cut down on the amount of interview time. Because really, you didn't need the people to ask them a question if they're going to cut the promos if they didn't get asked the question, So, I mean, that sucks for Dasha. But it's not the end of the world. And if, even Callum can't even figure out which one Dasha was, I'm sure that the majority of the WWE universe really isn't even going to notice, I'm blanking on the other girl's name. Because Charlie, Dasha, and another one had all come in together, and they all had vaguely the same appearance. And they were incredibly hard to figure out the difference of, because they were all just these very attractive brunette women that all had the same job in NXT, and they would cycle them out, and I was always...
Was it Brittany? Was it Brittany Fenton?
No, it wasn't Brittany. She was pretty too, but that's kind of the thing, is they just kind of... It's like a revolving door of models that come in and they fill the same role. It wasn't, I think her name might have been Angela Martinez or something like that. An A name and an M name, if I remember correctly. But she was the first to go. And right around that time frame is when I just started to realize, I could pick out Charlie the most because I think that she's the prettiest. And it's just kind of one of those things that, just happened. And I was like, Charlie's prettiest, and she kind of has the most personality. And then I can't kind of tell the two other apart. And then once that one left, and it was the other one's Dasha. Okay, that kind of a thing. And then Kayla got brought in, and then I could tell the difference between all of them and all that. But yeah, it's just sort of Dasha wasn't in WWE all that long. She came in through the NXT system as a performer. They quickly brought her in as an announcer and a backstage interviewer, and then she nixed the whole performer type of aspect, and then you're on borrowed time. You either figure out a way to make your spot something that stands out like Renee Young did and what Charlie Caruso seems to have done, or you fall by the wayside like so many other people ahead of them. That's kind of a shame.
I'm trying to guess at this interview. Was it Andrea DeMarco?
That's what it is.
Oh
Andrea
my
DeMarco.
God, yes.
Yeah.
I found her and Christy St. Cloud.
Yeah, Christy was the blonde girl who lasted about 10 months, if I remember correctly, maybe 1 year. She kind of came right in and right out, and she works with AfterBuzz. So she, she sprung back up and got on her feet.
Yeah, Andrea DeMarco was released at the same time as Tough Enough Josh was.
Oh, Josh, yeah, the Eddie.
Silent.
Yeah, so yeah, I can basically just like agree with the assessment of the fact that a lot of these interviewers are just very generic. So it's not really a huge loss to lose any of them at this point in time. But I think that's more problematic in terms of like just the system and the way that they use these people as much as it is the actual people themselves.
Yeah, because I'm sure that they have much more personality that they're not allowed to show. Well, I don't know. We'll see what Dasha ends up doing in the future. And the last thing to talk about here is Sasha Banks, with a couple people mixed in there. Sasha tweeted something, or she put something on Instagram that has gotten people buzzing about speculation of whether or not she wants to leave the company, whether or not there's something backstage going on, where she had put this whole, kind of song lyrics type of, retweeting the thing on Facebook, kind of whatever post of emo stuff. And it's all very passive aggressive. It's all very, put up a barrier to what you're actually trying to say because you don't actually want to be 100% real about the whole situation and all that. Very cryptic. At the same time, she pulled out of an appearance on the Wendy Williams show, which were supposed to be for, quote, personal reasons. A little bit later on, there's been some news that the Wendy Williams people are furious about this, and that this wasn't a situation where they were, like, taking her off the show. It's that she canceled on them, or WWE pulled her, and they're mad at WWE. It's Wendy Williams' people, they are mad. That's that kind of a thing. I do not give a shit about the Wendy Williams show. I have never seen it. I never plan on seeing it. The only clip of it that I've ever seen is the one where she passes out, and I thought that it was fucking hilarious. But, whatever. I don't watch 99 out of 100 TV shows that are out on because I just think that they're the stupidest things in the world, and I hate those kind of things. But to make this even weirder, Sasha had a little bit of a spat with Alexa Bliss on Twitter, which may or may not be true, may or may not be just storyline, whatever. They kind of blur those lines, but Alexa Bliss and Sasha Banks have had heat in the past, and Alexa said that she #blocked her and was tired of her petty shit. Also, this is where this gets where it's like, damn, there's a lot that goes along with this. Sasha had put the little hashtag, if you only knew, and Natty had put up a picture on Twitter of herself and Beth Phoenix from WrestleMania, and it said, we won, which I thought was fucking hilarious, that all the comments were, should we tell her? That kind of thing, because it's like, no, you didn't. And Beth Phoenix replied to that with, sure did, hashtag, if you only knew. So it's a little bit of a coincidence, maybe, but maybe there's something to it that both Sasha and Beth Phoenix used the same hashtag, and they were in the same match at WrestleMania. Whether this is something to do with the Alexa Bliss thing, whether it's something to do with the Wendy Williams thing, whether it's something to do with the tag team match, or whether it's something else that's completely unrelated, and maybe there's just little bits and pieces of some threads back and forth, and we could do some kind of, investigative, detective, red string, and the thumbtack, and all that kind of shit to figure this out, is, at least as far as, 4:45 on a Wednesday afternoon, it's completely unknown. But how are you guys feeling about this? What's the bullshit? What's the scuttlebutt? What are we going to dig up and find the dirt behind?
So I'm going to throw this out there just because it was reported on eWrestling News. Slice Wrestling said that sources say there was a backstage incident at WrestleMania that led to Sasha feeling the way she was feeling. Now, I don't know how much of it is scripted. I know her and Alexa have always had this kind of they don't like each other for real kind of relationship. So maybe there is some truth there. I know it's odd that in storyline she seemed to call out both of them, and then she just kind of had a one-on-one with Bayley and beat Bailey, and that was the end of it. Maybe Sasha's just frustrated, maybe she's feeling the happiest right now. And I mean, I assume this is more of a personal kind of mental or emotional thing because, Sasha has had those moments in her life. Like, so it wouldn't strike me as odd if she was just feeling withdrawn from things.
Well, I gotta interrupt just to say that I double checked, and since we started talking about this, there's been a couple little updates. One of them basically just being Wendy Williams had said on her show, which again I didn't watch, that it was some kind of a family emergency. That's at least the story that they're going with. But
Okay.
it seems a little weird that you would have something happen where it's like, here's a family emergency, and she's gonna put out stuff like a picture of her feet in front of the Raw thing saying, if I were to start again, would I do it any differently? That doesn't strike me as a family emergency. A family emergency to me comes off more along the lines of like, oh, we had a death in the family, or, like something like that, as opposed to a crisis of conscience about your job.
Well, it could have been unfortunate circumstance where it's like it all coincides.
Just like a weird coincidence.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But I'm glad that the Wendy Williams show put out something that's maybe a little more understanding, because I thought it was rather ironic that Wendy Williams would say, well, we're furious with her for needing this personal time, considering Wendy just came out and said, yeah, I'm living in a sober house because I'm addicted to whatever. But it's like, I would find it a little hypocritical. Not that hypocrites in the entertainment industry should be a shock. But yeah, I hope whatever this is blows over and everything smooths out, and that whatever she's going through isn't too serious.
What are you thinking, Callum?
I'm not very good at speculating. It's just the sense of there's so many different directions it could be. It could be like there definitely is scope to believe there could be like a general like discomfort in the way that things are going behind the scenes right now in WWE. It could just be her feeling in a bad mood. It could just be a case of like having a family emergency, and that's been distracting her the entire weekend, and it came to a head before the Wendy Williams show. I think it's probably quite harsh with the idea that she'll never, the things they're saying, like basically that she'll never be booked again for that show because she missed that appearance and left them scrambling at the last minute. Like, part of me can understand that, but part of me could also say if there is a genuine family emergency, then it's just a bit of a diva-ish show business type move to do on the Wendy Williams and like production side of things. I can't say one way or the other because we've heard this sort of stuff from Sasha Banks in the past on numerous occasions with she's got beef behind the scenes, the injuries that seem to come out of nowhere with no explanation behind them, all this other stuff. It seems to, this sort of speculation just seems to follow her entire career with WWE. And like, if I were her, I don't know, because I'm obviously not in her situation, and I don't know what is going on with her, so I can't say she should do this or she should do that, because at the end of the day, it's down to her. But with all this like speculation surrounding it, it'd be quite interesting if ever she was to leave WWE and then might feel more open about talking about this sort of stuff. It'd be quite interesting to see what things would be going on.
Yeah, because I mean, if they use the hashtag of "if you only knew," it implies there's stuff going on that we don't know, and that stuff is stuff that we don't. You can't really judge because you have no frame of reference, and it's really weird that the Beth Phoenix thing happened around that too, because that pretty much implies, even if it's unintentional, that there's something going on with that tag team match, like the plan ahead of time. Just pure speculation here. This is just a possible route. Maybe the plan ahead of time was that the Iconics weren't supposed to win. And it was either going to be like Beth Phoenix and Natalya won, and then at Money in the Bank, we had a rematch. Or maybe that was supposed to be the match, and they were pissed that the other two teams had gotten brought into the mix, and then on top of that, there was this like pull at the last minute of being like, we should put the belts on the Iconics, and then both those teams are like, well, what the fuck? We got our match was supposed to be this thing for months, and then you added these two teams in, and you're gonna make the Iconics win. What the hell? It could be that kind of a thing. I don't know. That's just, it's almost as if you look at it and you say, part of Sasha seems to be like, I'm pissed at something that happened in that match. And Beth is like, yeah. Part of it's like, I'm pissed at Alexa Bliss. Part of it is, I'm feeling like I shouldn't have actually come to WWE. And part of it is, oh, I've got some kind of family emergency that's unrelated. And there's certain people on comments and stuff like that that are like, maybe this means that she's getting a divorce from Mikaze, and I don't see anything that points in that direction, other than the fact that some people like to use the word magic to be like with relationships, and she said something about like she wants it to be magic again and whatever, but I think that that's more of a professional thing rather than like marriage or whatever.
Now, I did briefly think that, because I think the initial message was something like, you want to be able to come home again and feel that love and that magic. But then I thought, this is likely something beyond that. But I'm going to throw this disclaimer out there. Pure speculation. Beth and Sasha used the same hashtag of if you only knew. Now, what we do know is that WrestleMania was a long show. What if they said, girls, you got 5 minutes? And they balked and said, no, you're not going to do this to us, and spit in the face of the women's evolution. And on top of that, it was, okay, well, now the Iconics are winning, and you get your match, but you lost the belts, and Sasha's pissed. Now, I don't know.
Yeah.
Just
I mean,
trying
that's
to
a possibility.
connect some dots.
Like, there's a lot of different ways that this can mean. And it can mean something as simple as, I hope that this isn't the case, but maybe she's just a little butthurt that she wasn't the one in the main event.
Well, and that's another thing. She did say in an interview, and I forget with who at the moment, that if she is not the first woman to main event WrestleMania, it's going to break her heart.
Well, you know,
And-
that regard,
and
then
maybe-
you need to be on the same level as the other two, you know?
And maybe, again, just trying to connect dots with what we know, you throw that feeling of, I don't want to say bitterness, but, you know,
Sour
heartbreak
grapes.
on top of, hey, we're really short for time, you got 5 minutes. And then, you know, knowing she doesn't like Alexa, it's like, well, Alexa's going to get a bunch of segments just to be the host, you know, just a bunch of things adding up, which is something it could be, or maybe it's not. It would be interesting to see if we actually find out what all this is leading to, though.
Could the hashtag not be in any way related to the Pile Driver, the Wrestling Album 2 song, If You Only Knew?
Oh, that's a great song.
So there was an incident with Jimmy Hart.
And Coco
Yeah.
Beware. I agree.
Oh, it's Hulk. I mean, if Sasha Banks, it's Hulk Hogan. It's definitely Hulk Hogan.
Oh, correct. Which,
Sasha
by the
Banks
way,
went to date his daughter or whatever.
connecting dots, Hulk Hogan was on stage with Alexa Bliss.
And he didn't know about Paul Heyman. So
I know.
So Sasha is mad that Paul Heyman gave her a pile driver directed by Jimmy Hart,
And Alexa Bliss got to pose with Hulk Hogan.
and that Natty was in the match, and that the attacker at the Hall of Fame was. See, it's all coming back down to the fluoride that they put in the water. That's what it is. I don't know. Conspiracy theories all around. Maybe we'll find out what this is, or maybe this will be one of those things that years go by and I still go, I think that was the thing, you know, like we'll see. Maybe by next week, the hot tags will have some kind of story about Sasha Banks leaving WWE, or I don't know.
That would suck.
I hope not. Yeah,
That would really
I don't really
suck.
want to see like, AEW advertises that Mercedes has, joined the AEW roster or something, like, but it could happen. You never really know. And
Could make next year's penis party a lot more interesting.
I'd watch it then. I think that's all the hot tags that I have. Big edition of this to catch up on everything, and then who knows what'll happen over the next couple of days, but when that happens, of course, we'll round them into the next hot tags. The next thing that's going to be coming your way on the YouTube channel and all over the place is going to be the roundup and recap and review and the results of the Smark Madness tournament for 2019. We've been voting on what the best foreign object of all time is, and at some point later on tonight, on Wednesday night is when it is, so that's what I'm referring to, that's going to be shut off, and the polls will end, and we will determine whether or not the steel chair or the table is the best weapon of all time. It's so stupid, I love it. So vote while you can on that one, and tomorrow we will break that down and get that podcast up for you guys. So if you want to be aware of when that gets posted up on the YouTube channel and everything else, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for the notifications. And you can follow us on plenty of other different platforms on the audio only side of things, because Anchor pushes that out to everything. So we are on iTunes, we are on Stitcher, we are on Spotify, we are on Google Play, we are on damn near everything else that I can figure out, and some that I'm not even aware of. So if it's got something out there and you are, hey, I listen to it on this platform and I don't see it, let me know and I'll try to pass that along to Anchor. Yeah, so if you do follow us on any of those kind of things, hit the review part of that and give us 5 stars, or I don't know, whatever the hell ratings are on different things like that, because all that stuff's going to greatly help us out quite a bit. And follow us and share us and do the kind of stuff that goes along with that. Same thing when it comes to the social media accounts for Facebook and Twitter. They're both at SmarkOutMoment. We've also got the Patreon. Shout out to Guest 5 for upping his subscription tier. So awesome. Thanks for that, buddy. And if you want to take part in that, you got a little spare change you want to toss our way, whether it's $1 or $80,000 or something, If it's 81,000, we might have to talk, but yeah, go ahead and do that on patreon.com/whatever it is. It's either just /SmarkOutMoment, or it's got some kind of / profile or whatever. Just search SmarkOutMoment, you'll find it. Or there's a link at the bottom of SmarkOutMoment.com right next to the PayPal thing. There's also the TeePublic and the Redbubble shops if you want to pick up merchandise. So browse those and see if there's anything that's of your interest on those. SmarkOutMoment.com has plenty of other kinds of different things that are happening, the weekly articles and some other kind of stuff that's, going on here and there, including the Funko Pop contest that's just about to end. So take advantage of that while you can. And I think that's about it for the Smark Out Moment side of things. So I've got some e-wrestling news stuff, I've got some Bleacher Report stuff, and I've got fanboysanonymous.com. So start clicking on Fanboys and subscribe and to the Patreon and all that kind of stuff that's over there. And that's enough for me. I'm going to pass this around for the other plugs. Callum?
You can find me on Twitter at WeekMeister14. Check out the weekly articles on the Smark Moment, including the power rankings for this week. So it's going to be a reset based on all the stuff that happens at WrestleMania. So do feel free to check out those ones. And obviously 2001 Wrestling Odyssey will be restarting at some point later this month. I'm not sure when, probably towards the back end of the month, because it's been a very hectic month if you haven't already been experiencing any of it. If you haven't, then I don't know why you're listening to it. But if you want to check out some of the previous ones, we've got episodes for January, February, and March, and a special review of WrestleMania X7. And that's it from me. So, Rob?
And you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DudeFelice. You can check out my stuff on eWrestling News. Check out WrestleZone.com. They're also a great source for wrestling news. I do their Facebook live streams some days called the WrestleZone Daily. Check that out. We might be doing a fantasy draft on Monday. That should be a lot of fun. Check out Time Killer Apparel, which is my clothing line. And that is it for me.
That's going to round us out, everybody. Thank you for listening to this edition. Remember, drop your comments below. Tell us what you think. Hit that like button and do everything else that we've just talked about. We will see you next time. This has been another Smark Out Moment, and we're being counted out.